You must set up your strategy wisely.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Dreamhack Summer 1v1 Grand Finals here at Mechabellum Tournament. Sorry for the abrupt ending there to the player walkouts, but fear not, crisis averted. We are here ready to get the show on the road. I'm Toby, joined by Mr. Amaroq himself, the expert of the game. Thank you so much for once again being here today, Amaroq.
Hey, you're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm from California. Nice to see everybody.
A little bit better of a time of the day for you, perhaps, now than the early morning hours that you had to work in this show match earlier today.
2:30 a.m. was a little rough, not going to lie.
But now we're here, ready to get things kicked off. Again, we didn't get to hear that much from the players coming into the tournament. But of course, Amaroq, you know both of the players we are about to see on stage. Take your time now to maybe teach the viewers a little bit about who Surrey and Cast are as high-level Mechabellum players.
Well, sure. I do think they are two of the best. Cast is the European champion from Weekend Tournament 54, and Surrey is the Asian champion from Weekend Tournament 49. They're both former champions in their own right. Have won the 7 in a row that it takes to win one of the weekend tournaments. They're both very, very highly rated in terms of the overall MMR. And I do think of Surrey as a very aggressive player. Like you said, he likes to come out on the front lines. And as I talked about a little bit in the
interview?
Previous matches. Yeah, exactly. He likes to take advantage of the spots that are empty. So using mobile beacons, using repositioning, selling units to buy different units. So where a lot of players will value the number of deployments that they have, just to have the most physical weight on the field, Surrey is a lot more likely to sell a unit that isn't performing, buy a different unit, use that money to buy a different unit or a different technology that hasn't been countered, and put that somewhere that you're not expecting it from coming in from a different side. Cast, I think, is more in the very solid category. Plays a game that I don't see any weaknesses in or any.
Okay.
But it's a little bit less flamboyant, if you will. Like not pushing quite as hard, just taking the pieces that he has advantage, places that he has advantage, and pushing those advantages, but not quite as dramatically as Surrey does.
Yeah. We heard from Surrey coming into the show matches earlier today, where he was the coach of one of the teams, that one of the things he liked to focus on was not so much the aggression, more to try and counter your opponents. But now let's get right into it. Let's get into round number 1 of the Mechabellum Grand Finals.
He's taking a giant specialist with crawlers and phoenix, so that'll give him an aerial start. Cast, still thinking about it. The elite specialist is really difficult, comes in with a level 2 units. He took the marksman specialist. A lot of players are going to be picking from their starting units, so Cast has opted for crawlers and steel balls to go with the level 3 marksman, while Surrey's advantage is that all of his giants are free to unlock. With crawlers on the field, it's going to be pretty common to see both players take arc lights. They are the round 1 chaff clear, and as we talked about in the previous round, the crawlers are chaff. They're a small unit. They only have 300 hit points, so you're relying on something like the arc light. That's attack value here is 391, so it should one-shot each crawler. It also has an area of effect of about 7-meter splash, so it's going to hit more than one crawler per shot.
Now, I'm only seeing 1 marksman on the top side of the board here, up against 4 phoenixes. That's a lot of him having to do a lot of work to try and deal with all the aerial opponents.
It's true, but if Cast wins the ground game, and these Phoenix are targeting crawlers or the other units, then the marksman will have its leisure. So really the ground game is going to matter. And then you'll see either the marksman or the Phoenix kind of have free reign to shoot at the other. And that will determine who wins it, I believe.
A lot of change in positions here. We're seeing one go all the way over to the far left side of the field, it seems, to attack what really is just one set of crawlers.
Yeah, that is a pretty wide open tower, right? But conversely, if Surrey can push through on the right here, then that should work out really well for him.
Well, we'll see if that's going to work out or not. Arclight starting to shoot one another. The Phoenix is doing a lot of work up high as well, and now is where these crawlers on the west side has been dealt with. That tower should be falling momentarily.
Tower timing is going to matter here, because this tower debuff is going to undo right around the time that these guys are engaging this second tower. So the question is, which one's going to get their tower first, and are they going to engage while this tower debuff is in play? And you can see this poor orange man just got, there's no chaff protecting him. He got hit while the tower debuff was in. That's a lot of experience granted to the Phoenix. You can see this Phoenix is already leveled up.
Oh, wow.
Where the Phoenix that didn't kill Orange Man is only about halfway to leveling up. Round 1.
Solid beginning for the Phoenix is up high, and we'll see now in round 2 if an immediate response comes through. Talk to me a bit about the hackers, Amaroq, just because I feel like they're a unit that we don't see too prioritized, even though I feel like when they work really well.
They are a go big or go home strategy for sure. And they're going to work really, really well in boards where players are not utilizing enough chaff, right? I had a game recently where I kind of allowed my opponent to win rounds 2, 3, 4, 5 because he wasn't respecting the idea that I could go with hackers. He didn't have enough chaff on the board, and as I'm losing hit points. I bought 3 level 2 hackers on round 5, or I guess it was round 6, and 1 round 6 and 7, and that was game. So
just like that, a game can turn around as we now head on into, I was going to say, into round 2, but not quite yet. We are seeing some upgrades though on both sides.
So Surrey has taken the jump drive technology, which allows him to reposition the Phoenix to wherever he wants. So he's chosen to put one out here on the flank using that strike specialist that he took. So this is going to be half the time to call in. It should have a pretty undefended tower. Cast is playing more of the mobile beacon game that I told you guys Surrey might do. This jumping Phoenix is very, very much the style of thing that Surrey does as well. Cast's response to this aggression on this side was to put a flank crawler that's actually going to pull these units off to the right towards this. Yeah, see that? So
they're baiting all the attention out to the flank. In the meantime, the guys trying to run through on the left flank didn't really succeed in doing so either, because here comes the Phoenixes once more.
Right, the Phoenix took out that the steel balls there. These guys have gotten the tower, and this is classic Surrey. This is exactly what it feels like to play him. And you're like, okay, great, I'll defend this corner, and then next round the attack is coming from somewhere else.
They are dangerous when they can maneuver them around each and every round. For the most part, for those of you guys who are new to the game, of course, one of the crucial things in this game is you place down a unit, and well, it's going to stay there for the rest of the game. But there are different techs you can upgrade, items you can purchase that allows you, like the drum dive here, to reposition your units.
Jump drive is actually a pretty cheap technology. It's only 50 to unlock. So there's two different ways to play Phoenix. One is kind of a back deep with using range and elite marksman to turn your Phoenix into these massive single target damage dealers. They're basically better than a marksman if you're playing them this way, because you get two of them each time you unlock something. But the other way to play them is the way that Surrey does, where they're these jumpy, anywhere on the board he feels like, I'm just going to do everything I can to make your life miserable. And let's just put it this way: when I played Surrey, I won a round.
A round.
I'm very proud of that. Not a match. Not a match. No, I won a round.
You know, we take the wins we can get. Sledgehammers, it seems, is going to be the go-to, one on each side here to try and fend off against maybe some of the steel balls coming through.
Yeah, the vertical sledgehammers are good against both the crawlers, because they will fire in sequence as the crawlers approach. The first crawlers will get killed by the first sledge. The second crawler will get killed by the second sledge. They also work really well at slowing down the steel balls, because all 4 steel balls will focus on one sledgehammer while the other 4 are still shooting it, and then they have to stop. And the way that their damage works is that laser style, where it starts off doing very little damage and then ramps up and ramps up and ramps up.
Now, very
Cast
quickly. Continue.
I was going to say, Cast has gone for Wasps as his defense. You can see where Surrey has jump-driven the Phoenix to here and is going to try to hit tower and come over and hit the other tower. He doesn't really have any good frequent firing anti-air that would handle the Wasps very well. So the Wasps should be able to beat even the higher-leveled Phoenix, just because there are so many more of them.
Yeah, and they're working really, really great up there on the back lines, taking out the first turret, now the second tower to fall as well, and that marksman, well, nothing he could do about that.
No. We still have this pack of Wasps out here that is going to be engaged without a tower debuff.
Will they get the tower down just before?
Ooh, that was pretty lucky. They're going to get stuck on the tanks. That gives the Phoenix enough time to finish them out. Narrow round win for Surrey.
Very much so, and 240 damage done. It might not look like a lot when we kick things off here, but in the end that can be the deciding factor in whether or not you win a match or you don't. And now we are into the reinforcement rounds here. A lot of, in my opinion, good choices here. I love the Typhoons. What about you?
The Typhoons are a unique piece in that you can only get them through this reinforcement mechanic. You can't unlock them normally. Scorpion, Wraith, and Stormcaller are all pretty normal. Scorpions are a good answer to either the steel balls or the sledgehammers. This Wraith is a good answer for protecting your Wasps, because if somebody comes out with, say, Mustangs that are going to shoot a whole bunch of Wasps, those Mustangs can get tanked by an armored Wraith. So it's just going to sit there and draw fire that would otherwise have gone to the Wasps, I think.
And now just
so one on each.
One on each, sorry. Go again.
I was going to say one on each side.
I just wanted to say, just to add another level of depth to this game. So we've talked about the different units, how you can counter them, counter one another. We've talked about upgrading units, techs on units, but we haven't really talked too much about the towers. Outside of the fact you can destroy them, you can also use them to upgrade various things in the game too.
That's correct. So a couple of different things. Each tower has different things you can do. So both players have taken the mobile beacon for 100 off of their right side tower. That's what you're seeing here, this little two-piece dog leg. The way that works is it takes whatever units are in it and moves the units. So these wasps that are on this corner of this circle are going to move to that corner of this circle and then that corner of this circle. So the wasps won't actually get close enough to shoot the tower until they're pretty deep in. See a flank crawler coming in here that's going to pull things apart. There's the Mustang answer to the Wasps, but hopefully from Cast's perspective, those are getting distracted by the crawlers, and they'll wind up getting tanked by the Wraith.
Seems like they are for now. Once again, they're all the way down to the tower already, and there it falls as the army on the eastern side continues forward. There is a Scorpion and another big units on the west side for them to deal with. We will see if one more tower down could be them winning this one.
Don't think Surrey has enough left to handle all of this, but with tower debuff, it might help. Fortunately, the Mustangs are heading off to the other tower rather than coming to engage the Wasps, so it's a little unfortunate. Once the round has started, of course, you don't get to control your units. They are AI dependent, and they actually do take into account things like how much time would it take me to rotate to engage with the arc light versus how quickly can I get to the far side tower, how quickly am I going to get in range of things. What they don't take into account is, wait, are you actually a danger to me? Or am I shooting at something that can completely not even harm me?
And now they know, but they found out a little too late. But a nice response, nonetheless, from Cast to take the health bars of both players down to somewhere around even. Ooh, a quick decision there on Surrey's part.
Surrey likes Giants. Giants do a lot of hit point damage because they do 400 damage. They cost 400 to buy, but they do 400 hit point damage. And the senior manufacturing specialist reduces the cost of buying them to 350, but they still do the full amount of damage.
Don't say no to that.
The key technology that made that round work for Cast, by the way, is he took Egen Beam on the Wraith, which causes a debuff kind of similar to the tower debuffs. Units near them have their movement speed reduced, their attack reduced, and they take additional damage. That can get turned off by the photon emission technology on an Overlord. So I would expect Surrey to be considering photon emission as a defense to it. The other thing that you could do to turn it off is the electromagnetic shot. So if these Phoenix get equipped with the electromagnetic shot and they line up on the...
Oh, they cancel the tech?
They turn the tech off each time they hit.
How smart. And for those of you guys who don't know what we're talking about, it's the Wraith. You saw it on them just before. The big blue kind of blurs around them. The aura almost on them is this degeneration beam that comes in very, very handy. Seems
both players took the Giant. Both players took Senior Manufacturing Specialist. Fortress for Cast and the Overlords for Surrey. Overlords were the dominant part of the meta recently, but they've been detuned a little bit, so they are no longer a go out and win automatically sort of button. It's very nicely balanced right now to creating a whole lot of varied strategies. In fact, I would be surprised if you saw the same strat back-to-back in these matches between these two players.
We'll have to wait and see, as once again, it's more defensive style here for Surrey, trying to fend off against this onslaught of opponents coming in.
He's been forced into a defensive shape, and we talked about how, I think Surrey is at his best in an attacking shape, and you can kind of see that round hurt a lot. We had 300 hit points from each of the surviving Wraiths, plus 400 hit points from the surviving Giants, made a quick 1,700 hit points, and that's dropped Surrey down to about 1,500 hit points. So he's in danger of losing match one if he can't straighten that out for next round. These Wasps are very vulnerable to a lightning storm, but it was a very expensive opposition, so Surrey passed that to take the plus 50.
Is this where
see
you
how much they have.
consider the more money this round, no money next round opportunity in the tower, just
Absolutely.
because you're kind of with your back against the wall now?
Yeah, so you could take this rapid resupply if you're Surrey, if you felt like this match is going to end quickly. You could also take it as cast to try and finish this match out.
True, true.
What Surrey has done is picked up the man center upgrades. So he's fortified both towers to level 2. So they have 23,000 hit points, where the base tower has 3,000 hit points.
Ooh.
He did take the rapid resupply. He's also taken a mass recruitment, which lets him recruit 3 units.
So he's going all
He's
in,
brought
effectively.
Yeah, he's committed to. I need to. Yeah, as you said, my back's against the wall. I need to commit to winning this.
So we haven't seen a whole lot of the cheaper purchases you can do in terms of the turrets, the missiles, the small shields you can purchase for 150 and 100 up. You can see them just above the units they have available. Now, as I say that, of course they do. But is that something you don't see used too often, the sentries and the missiles?
In the very highest level, no. The game is so economically focused that you need to be certain you're going to get a big benefit from it.
Okay.
Here, the big benefit is I'm going to shut off the. I'm going to shut off those crawlers so that I can engage with the wraiths. You saw anti-air missiles from the fortress took the Phoenix down very quickly.
Yep.
But also this is the photon coating that we talked about. So I mentioned on round 5 that he might take the photon coating to turn off the E-gen beam and protect all of his units from it. He did exactly that, and you can see what a big difference that made on this right side.
Massive indeed, but is it going to be enough? I'm not sure against 3 fortresses.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's lost to the left pretty hard. We've got 1 surviving overlord. We've got the 2 fortresses. AA from the forts is not very good against a overlord, but it's good enough.
Come on, Mustang, you can do this. You can do this.
I don't think one hero Mustang is going to do this, buddy. No spoilers, but
Wah, there he goes. But at least, I mean, I guess defeat averted. He did commit a lot. He is going to have less credits coming into this round 7, of course, but but a tricky one for sure.
yeah, 1,400 credits available for cast, 1,100 for Surrey because of paying off that loan.
Any must-takes here for Surrey in terms of the reinforcements? You going Fire Badger?
When Fire Badger, I think both Fire Badger and Typhoon were good options here. The other possibility would be taking the level 7 Sabertooth, because there's no big single target damage that would whittle down the amount of hit points that a level 7 heavy tank would have. So that could have been useful. A lot of people will also take the Sabertooth to sell, but I like the Fire Badger for him. I think that's pretty solid. And Cast has taken the Typhoons. You might almost have expected this to go the other way, because the Typhoons would be very good into the Wasps and potentially the Wraiths. They're good anti-air.
So we're seeing a pretty big variety of the units they're displaying here. We'll see now who comes out victorious. This time around, it's a more even-boarded fight. I feel like no flanks being pushed through from Surrey, but I feel like he's also, again, as we said, more of a defensive position. He can't really just commit too hard to try and wrap the other side.
Yeah, Cast has really knocked him out of his strength, I think, and forced him into this defensive shape. The Fire Badgers are being used to counter the crawlers that we saw missiled out last time. So I think that's pretty solid from them.
Well, it's the attack of Cast versus the defense of Surrey. Surrey, they're only sitting at 646 health. We'll see if he can withstand this with just 5 seconds to go until the round starts. And there we go.
So two key technologies, the shield barrier on the Typhoon, and also behind those, these steel balls are healing themselves with every piece of damage that they do. So they should stay alive a little bit longer. Now they're dead, the shields are gone, and Surrey's defense is holding strong on the left.
Looks like this time around it's more even. Maybe I spoke too soon.
Yeah, the right side's in trouble now. So Surrey committed more to the left, where he had lost heavily, and Cast committed more to the right, where he'd lost the last round, and you can see that kind of flip-flopped things for them. Yeah, level 2 Scorpion is solid, and with the debuff, it's going to be able to hold this round. Very nice.
amazing timing on the tower debuff on the other side as well. Surrey able to stay in it, hit back a little bit again. I mean, now we're at a point where with so many costly units in play too, this could easily go Surrey's way. He win this game. 4,800 damage ain't out of realms with how many big units he has.
Right, and he's still down financially a little bit, but he did not commit so heavily as to loan again last round. So he had money available this round.
Well, we'll see how he puts it to use. Cass still hasn't committed. Now he does Insinuary. Where do you see this being used?
He's going to use that to try and take out chaff units. There's a little flank going on here. Yeah, this makes good sense in terms of we're going to try to hit. We're going to try to hit all of these units. These guys, as they run out that direction, these are kind of key defensive units for the Wasps. But this is where, knowing that was available, Surrey might consider buying these shield generators and putting up defensive barriers where he thinks those might be likely.
That's, of course, another important thing to keep in mind. Now, you can see it on the screen for the tournament here, but when you're playing yourself as well, whatever you get offered to pick between, your opponents do too. So as you're saying, Amaroq, it's always smart to keep in mind not only what you opt to go for and consider that, but also what could my opponent have taken that I had available too, and try and counter it, kind of preemptively.
Right. So Cast has taken Rocket Punch, so each time these forts get badly wounded or moderately wounded, they're going to do a big rocket punch for 15,000 damage to something on the ground. Those don't affect the overlords. The idea there is that they're going to clear out the ground units and let other things target the overlords. The overlords now have launcher overloads, so they're going to fire twice as often. Everything's at point blank, so giving up some range, really not a big deal for Surrey. Losing the chaff on this side was really brutal. I think that might be game.
Very well could be now. It's just Overlords left alive up against the air barrages from all the fortresses coming in, not looking good. And with the Typhoon on the west flank as well, it is looking very, very difficult for Surrey indeed.
Cast wins that one basically from having the earlier positioning advantage so that he could force this, where Surrey felt like he had to take a chance on that.
So round one in favor of Cast, and as you said, I mean, coming out right from the gates, heavy hitting, and there was just nothing Surrey could do to hold him off.
Right. He really pushed, Cast did really well at transitioning that from a defensive, having to answer Surrey's early attacks, and then turning that around into an offensive push that Surrey wasn't as well positioned to defend.
Incredible, incredible way to kick things off. A match between, again, two players who came into this, not into the tournament, but into the whole event thinking, hey, we're going to be in the same team. We've practiced together. We've played 2v2s together, expecting to play against other teams of the like. And then not to be, we split them apart, and now they're forced to play against one another. Of course, I'm Toby, joined by Amaroq, and we've just witnessed, I don't want to say a slaughter, because I feel like there were moments, Amaroq, where Surrey had a chance to fight back. It was just like one bad timing on a tower being taken down or something like that that cost him those games.
But one bad timing on a tower was earned by the attack on, the attack and positioning.
Well,
right?
yeah, true.
It's the tactic. You need to push to attack them or set yourself up to defend them well. And a lot of times matches with Surrey I've seen have gone to almost a race, right? I'm attacking one side, you're attacking the other side. Who's going to win that tower first? This time you saw Cast made both sides relatively balanced, so there wasn't a dominant side for either player.
Now, we heard from Cast coming into the tournament, the short interview that we had before the games went on, that he said you can't have like your stable playstyle. You have to always be unpredictable, always be ready with multiple different options. Do you see him now, off of how well he played here in the first game, coming back with maybe not the same exact playstyle, but a similar one coming into game two?
I liked the way he came out aggressive and balanced on both sides, right? He had, if you remember, the initial formations, Surrey came out attacking on the right side, and Cast came out attacking but balanced. And I think that really made a difference for Cast being able to defend on both sides and then turn that into attacking on both sides.
Well, definitely look good for him, so maybe don't change too much, unless, of course, if Surrey has an answer to the approach there was before. And for Surrey, I mean, yes, he doesn't come out victorious in this round, but were there some things you saw from Surrey that you thought, oh, if you just stick to this, if you just do more of that, then maybe round 2, or game 2, I should say, is yours for the taking?
I felt like the early aggression that he had with the jumping or jump drive Phoenix was really powerful for him. And a lot of times, at least in my opinion, when playing Surrey, that's the sort of attack that I'm expecting to see. That's the sort of play style that I'm expecting. And I was a little bit surprised that he didn't identify some weaknesses to be able to flank or jump drive into to create some mismatches, right? Like the round that he committed heavily on the left side, he didn't jump Phoenix over to that side as well. Like he could have been jumping those Phoenix from left to right, depending on which side he needed to win all through that match.
But I feel like that's also part of Mechabellum, is that in the initial rounds, you can kind of make sense of them, especially if you're a newer player coming into it, because you only have so many units. You have your heavy hitters, you have your single targets, and maybe a couple of chaff. But once you hit round 4, round 5, and later down the line, you have so many things on the board that even though you came into the game with one strategy in mind, you can very easily confuse yourself and wait, what was my idea coming into this? Because all of a sudden you've bought 3 different units that you didn't even need to begin with. As you talked about in the show match earlier, how sometimes you get something and then you kind of just lose control of it halfway through the game.
That was very much one of the things I got in recent coaching was I've been doing that a little bit too much. I've been not committing heavily enough into a specific strat. But I think you saw both of these players. They took a giant, they took their senior manufacturing specialist, they committed to multiple techs on that giant. They weren't jumping around into 3 or 4 different giants. They weren't buying single techs on a whole bunch of different units the way that we may have seen in the show match from those newer players. They really committed to certain things, and if this certain committed approach didn't work out for Surrey in this one match, it's that's just the way this match went.
So it's a good general rule of thumb, you'd say, for new players coming into the game, instead of trying to go full rainbow mode, one of each type of unit, just commit to one type of each. As you said, you have your giant unit, you have your splash damage unit, you have your... I mean, we do see more people, I feel like, taking both fangs and crawlers and kind of combining the two. But other than that, would you say it's a good general advice to just commit to one type of each unit?
Yes, that was my advice to a new player here, is to identify 4 major roles, right? You have your chaff, you have your chaff clear, you have your tank, and you have your single target damage. And just commit to one of each, one unit that fills each of those 4 roles. And those are the units you're going to commit to for this game. And if that composition doesn't work out because the ranges don't work or your opponent has something that perfectly countered it, just learn from that and say, okay, this composition might not be what I need to run, or this composition isn't what I can run when I see my opponents start with, crawlers and steel balls and mustangs, right? This comp just doesn't work against that grouping. I need a different comp.
Do you reach a point in a match where it's too late to audible? You just have to kind of double down and go all in on the strat you've put together because now you have too many units of a kind, or you've invested too much into a style and you just have to kind of Hail Mary it? Or is there always a chance for you to change out to something else?
There's always a chance to change out because you have so much cash available in those late rounds. So that game that I was talking about where I had I'm going to show up with hackers in round 6. And I actually had that plan from about round 3 and was picking up some units and techs that would support this later. But from my opponent's perspective, it was, wow, my guy just spent 1,400 to buy 3 level 2 hackers with items and a technology on them. Where did that come from, right? And it completely changed things around where he may not have seen it coming. But it was definitely part of my strategy. I wasn't able to, I wouldn't have been able to say like, oh yeah, I need to commit to... I need to switch completely from a air game to a ground game and build out a game with enough ground chaff to win it at that late stage of a game.
And is that maybe where some of the big purchasable things can happen as well? We saw, it was a show match, sure, but we saw it quadruple nukes being deployed. We saw both these players now skipping on nukes, skipping on lightning storms as well. Is it something you see more often than not, that the more experienced players opt to not take those big, heavy-hitting AoE things?
Those are So I would say those are tempo units or tempo purchases, right? So when Cast was in a position of like, I could knock this game out. I've got Surrey down under 1,000 hit points. I was kind of surprised when he's passed up on some of those big, heavy hitting damage things.
Yeah.
Especially a nuke would have been able to take out the overlords, right? Because there's no, you can have a shield bubble on the ground, but the shield bubble doesn't protect air units. So an air game like Surrey's with the Phoenix and overlords would have been really vulnerable to something like that.
Sounds good. Well,
And,
we are now going to go to a short break, but stick around, everyone, because we'll be back with match number 2 in just a few.
Hello, I'm Pastor Drewski, and I stream strategy games on Twitch. I'm collaborating with Paradox Arc to talk about Mechabellum and its free-for-all mode, the 4-player brawl. Mechabellum is a strategy PvP auto-battler that lets you customize the units, loadouts, and formations of a giant mech army, and then sit back and watch them stomp into combat. The game has 2 phases: a planning phase where you purchase and position new units, and a combat phase where you watch to see how your strategy plays out. When you start a new match, you will first make a choice from 4 random specialists, who each give a unique power and a set of starter units to form the foundation of your army. Building your army is simple. You use supply to purchase up to 2 units from what you have unlocked, and you can unlock 1 new unit type per turn. Supply is also used to level up units, purchase new techs, or deploy devices onto the field. Each round you can choose new specialist passives, equipment for your units, reinforcements, or battle abilities to deploy. In this chaotic free-for-all though, you face 3 other players as well as a neutral AI, and none of them want you to succeed. So let's get started improving your odds. This game mode is won by score. Either the first player to reach 5,000 points, or the one with highest points after 10 rounds of play is the winner. You earn score for each of your units left alive at the end of a round, and you can see all other players' total score along the right-hand side of the screen. It's also worth noting that there is no player elimination, so don't stress about being the leader right away. After all, you might not want the attention that comes with. Opposite your playing area is the AI, already arrayed against you. Unlike standard gameplay, the composition and positions of the AI force is visible to you, and it will change every round. So don't overcommit to defending against a particular turn's enemy formation. Every neutral unit you do defeat will earn you a bounty of supply for next turn. And if you can break through the enemy lines fast enough, there are 5 supply ships up for grabs that will reward the first player who destroys them. Their value increases each round too, so consider strategies that'll help you reach them quickly. The AI does have a trick up its sleeve, however. Every few rounds, it'll send a boss wave towards the player in first place. This is clearly a challenge for the leader, but it might also be a window of opportunity for other players to make a move. As you build your forces, your main concern is not the AI, but your opponents. Don't just get tunnel vision on your own board. It will be vital to pay attention to what units your neighbors are building and consider how to counter them. The map is in an X shape, with the AI and supply ships in the middle and players along the outside. You can click a player's portrait to see who's positioned where, and health bars above the units reflect the colors of the players. Since the map is exceptionally large, you may find that units focused on long range, or those that produce other units, have an advantage here. Also, keep an eye out for techs that provide even more range, or perhaps a repair ability, since the map size will give them extra time to do so. And since you're limited to 2 deploys a turn, you likely want to invest in larger units the later the game goes, as they will have a bigger impact on the outcome and gain you more points if they live. Oh, and one more thing. Those boss waves from the AI? Hackers can steal them. Sometimes one of your opponents may pull ahead, and it's up to you to stop them. One option is the flank. Flanks are special zones near enemy boards that you can deploy units to. If you can take out their towers, they will be hit with a powerful debuff for some time, likely costing them the round. For your immediate neighbors, you can use the zones closest to you. And for the opponent across the map, you can flank on the back side of their board. Of course, remember, they can do the same to you. All players have access to a flank zone on all other players' boards, so things can get out of hand. You never quite know what to expect in the brawl, but one thing's for sure, it won't be easy. I'm Pastor Drewski, and good luck out there.
One match down, potentially 2 more to go, but that requires that Surrey comes out victorious here in the next, because Cast managed to grab the win in match number 1 in pretty good fashion, I would say. Amaroq, as we just broke down, as you broke down, I should say, from that previous showing, aggressive playstyle right from the start, and Surrey didn't seem to be able to stop him.
That's correct. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Cast has up his sleeve for match number 2.
It's going to be exciting, that is for sure. If you're tuning in now for the first time ever, for starters, where have you been all day? We've already had a great show match, and now you missed the first match of the first start here today. If you didn't watch the show match, just go back and watch the ending at least. You are going to be in for a very explosive finish, I would say, for sure. And I feel like we're already now, even though it's only been 2 BO3s we've covered today so far, Amaroq, we've seen so many different aspects showcased of what it requires to be a great Mechabellum player, from formations, from unit knowledge. There's so many things to go into. I mean, what would you say for some of these newer players would be, once you've got your units knowledge and maybe counter units knowledge locked down, what would be the next natural step to jump to progress in knowing more about Mechabellum?
I'd say the initial piece is, as you said, knowing which units counter which units, right? And thinking of, oh, okay, here's an arc light counters a crawler, right? Like, this is the answer to a crawler. I've got some arc lights. If there's a huge amount of of crawlers, even, I need to have something more like a Vulcan or a Wraith, right? Something that can clear out larger areas, larger volumes of infestation, if you will. But moving up from there, I'd say the next pieces are positioning, and then the piece after that would be understanding which techs counter which techs, and understanding, for example, how you can get your counters or your crawlers to beat those arc lights, and then what it would take for the arc lights to get the upper hand again.
Yeah, because we saw it just there in that previous match, where literally a second meant that the the Phoenixes from Surrey opted to go for the small targets rather than the one they actually needed to take out. As you said, there's no way for you to engage with the battle once the game is on. It's on. You only get to really influence what's going down prior to the extra round itself starting, as we are headed straight on in to game number 2.
Right, Giant Specialist from Surrey with Fangs and Phoenix. So he's got his chaff, he's got those Phoenix that we saw he loved and used so well at the start of the previous round, and then the free unlocks for whichever Giants he needs. Notice that that's 4,500 hit points, that's on par. Something like Cost Control here with 5,100. That's indicating that that's a weak starting pack, and the Quick Supply that Cast took with 4,200 hit points, that indicates that according to the developers' stats, this pack of starting units and starting specialist wins more than 50% of the time.
That's fair,
So
I suppose, to then reduce
drop
the starting health a bit.
Right, to try and get everything down to about 50% win rates. They do adjust those on the regular.
That's great. An active developing community that balances things all the time. So maybe a bit of a similar start to what we saw in the previous one. This time around, though, double Phoenix is coming in.
Both players have the double Phoenix, and I like this from Surrey. He's got what I would call flank screening Fangs. They're in a position to prevent any kind of weird jump drive or strike specialist shenanigans. You know, you can drop something down here and there's going to be a unit defending the tower. Especially useful against wasps, which we just saw Cast use in the last game. So he'll have some units that are capable of anti-air out there. He's not coming out as aggressively as he did last time, and Cast is at least thinking about starting with a very deep defensive deployment.
Yeah.
So Surrey's not right up on the line the way that he was. Cast is much deeper. So it's a very different start to this match than the previous one.
And something we're seeing a great showcasing of here, because we talk about chaff, these small, well, let's call them cannon fodder units that are literally just made to go in and distract the opponents. We're seeing a pretty good 1-2-3 kind of setup here on the south side of the board, exactly with the crawlers in the back and Fangs up ahead. Explain to me a little bit about the reason that you don't just pour them all in there right off the bat.
This is about timing. It's to ensure that there is a chaff unit in a place when you need it to be. So in theory, these Phoenix are going to stop. These second wave of chaff should be just in front of the Phoenix by the time they engage. They weren't fast enough. They didn't get there. So the Phoenix go down. And that was very unfortunate for Surrey. But he'll be able to fix that on a future round, presumably with something like a crawler behind this tower, is what I would imagine.
Just one more set of chaff and to glue it all together. But a good heavy-hitting start, really. I mean, with all the Phoenixes staying alive, or the most of them anyway, quite a bit of damage done in the first round to Surrey.
And importantly, Cast started with the specialist that gives him plus 200 cash. He didn't spend any of it in round one. He saved it all to be able to react to what Surrey did in round one. So he's got 600 to spend this round. Surrey's taken the Sabertooth, which I expect he's going to sell. This is the highest sell value out of this grouping. And Cast took it as well. So they may play these for a round or two and then sell out of them to fund units that they care about a little bit more.
And how much money do you get back when you sell? Is it 100% or do you is it reduced value?
It is 100%, but you have to unlock the ability to sell the unit from this field recovery for 100. So we would get back 200. You can see that in the selling price in the bottom left corner of the unit. And you can, once you've unlocked it, you'll be able to sell a unit each round for its full value. And that includes any levels that you put into it. So a Sabertooth would cost 200 to buy and 100 to level up. So if you sold a level 2 Sabertooth, you'd get back 300 instead of 200.
And that again goes back to what we talked about earlier with being able to audible, being able to kind of go out of a strategy early on that you figured, oh no, this is not working for me. Then you can start selling, then you can start going other directions with your army.
In particular, if you bait a specific response. So if I'm able to bait out the unit that I wanted to see, and then sell out of the unit that baited that response, especially if the opponent is already into buying some technologies on that unit. So, for example, if somebody went with anti-air Mustangs because I had bought some Wasps, I can just sell out of the Wasps.
That's where the real mental warfare comes into the picture as well. Yeah, sure. It's only flying units on the east side there fighting one another, as we are seeing now the second row of chaff coming in.
Yeah, it worked out a little bit better for Surrey in terms of keeping the Phoenix alive, but Cast has picked up a third set of Phoenix on this side, and that is winning on the left as well. These poor little Fangs are actually a good match against Phoenix, but not with a tower debuff and not with this few of them against 4 Phoenix.
Not making things
Surrey down under 3,000 hit points. A very good start for Cast, but he's now used that early economic advantage, and Surrey's economic advantage from having the free giant unlocks should start to play in rounds 3, 4, 5.
So Surrey is opting to skip once again here. He hasn't been too keen on selecting too many of the reinforcements presented to him. Would you say that's the wiser play? Again, we talked a bit about it just before, but go into more like of the value of these different options that you have available.
So Incendiary Bomb, very good for clearing out chaff. Cast doesn't have a whole lot of chaff right now, so there's not a great place for it. Electromagnetic Impact, really good for turning off shields and technologies, but there's not a lot of that on the board either. Skill Specialist makes these things cool down a round quicker, but nobody has any skills yet. And Shield Device Specialist, okay, you get plus 40% on those shields, so instead of 40,000 hit points, they have 56,000. But if you're not planning on buying shields on round 3 because you're trying to build a better long-term army, then maybe you would pass on that one as well. So I think because the game is so economically tight at the highest level, I think both players taking skipping was the right call for them. On a different board, you might have seen Fire, especially if Cast was feeling like he could knock Surrey out pretty quickly. You might have seen Fire as a tempo play for him. And certain players, if they have a very shieldy play style, they spend a lot on shields, you might have wanted that anti-shield electromagnetic impact.
So that, of course, is a great reminder to all the new players out there that you can, in fact, opt to just not go for any of the options and skip the purchase altogether and save some money that you can spend on units and upgrades instead.
So biggest piece this round is Surrey did buy the Giant. He's a Giant specialist, so the unlock was free. Got himself a Fortress, and he actually put it basically right where the Sabertooth was and sold the Sabertooth for 200 to be able to afford the anti-air technology on his Fortress. That gives him anti-air missiles that with a range of 180 meters. So those are able to take out the Phoenix on that side. With the Phoenix taken out on that side, he's won that side pretty handily. That fort hasn't had a scratch laid on it yet, and it should be in pretty good shape against these Phoenix as well.
Even with the
outranges them.
debuff.
It outranges them, and it does enough damage with the missiles. Now, missiles are randomly targeted in this game, so you saw the big spread there. You might get lucky and have a volley hit exactly where you needed it to, and every now and then you'll get a volley that is just horribly inefficient.
We can't hit all the shots. Even robots
Can't
make
hit all the
mistakes.
shots.
That's just how it is.
Exactly.
Instant steel ball production line for Surrey here. Is that what he's now going to commit to? And it's giants only, so of course it makes pretty good sense to throw that on his fortress.
He had two different choices here. He had Mustang production and steel ball for things that go on a fortress. Produce units throughout the match, which is really powerful, especially if you've got a unit that a giant unit that you're planning to keep around till the end of the line. And really, are you planning on your giants dying?
I mean, you shouldn't be. Then, then I don't know what you're doing. We're seeing here, of course, these two very, very focused players getting ready for, again, what could be one of the final rounds. Surrey in a bit of trouble, but was able to strike back here in the previous one, but is down 0-1 against his friend Cast. The battle of the Finns here, as both these Finnish representatives take to the grand finals.
Cast has taken the deployment module. This is an item you can place onto a unit, and then that gives that unit the jump drive style ability without actually taking the technology. You're committed to just a single unit. Surrey has sold out of the second. He's sold out of the second Sabertooth, and Cast has sold out of one Sabertooth now. What would you put that on? You could conceivably put it on, flank something, and then put it on that flank unit next round. You could reposition it within the flank without paying the summoning cost again, or you could just be tending to have a jump drive Phoenix when you don't actually have it. So he's saved it until he has a unit he wants to reposition. That makes sense, right? Once you've got it on the unit, you're committed to that specific unit. I could have seen him putting it on this Sabertooth just to reposition it, because he's probably planning on selling the Sabertooth next round. But
we did see a bit of a flank coming through, but it didn't amount to a whole lot. But still, it stalled for a little while, long enough it seems.
So forts are very, very good. You saw Cast win with forts last game. Here they are doing very well for Surrey. Now they have a specific weakness. They're huge, huge chunks of hit points. Obviously, the melting point is really strong against a unit with 50,000 hit points. So I'm kind of expecting Cast's answer to include a melting point at this point.
Surrey instantly going for the Mustang production. Similar fashion to what we saw with the steel balls before. Get more units in. I was going to say for free, but of course this does cost you 200 to produce to begin with. But still, it's going to just constantly throw units on the battlefield for you.
Yeah, I undervalued these when I first started. I really did not understand how powerful they would be. And they definitely can be. Getting units producing other units is just huge. We get the fire that's going to clear out chaff on this side.
Can you double that? Can you get a unit that produces units that also produces units? It can become like a full babushka doll, where you take one off, and then you take one off, and then you take one off.
There are a couple of different things. The Matryoshka doll builds would be the War Factory making a steel ball, and then the steel ball turns into crawlers when it dies. There's also a build, a synergy build out there that is the Vulcan. The round starts, the Vulcan summons a marksman, and then you can get attack on the marksman that summons fangs. And they're all the same level as the original Vulcan. So you have these, giant plus a giant that clears, plus a single target damage dealer in the marksman, plus a chaff in the fangs that you've created.
A lot of different options. Again, just goes to show the seemingly never-ending depth of this game. And I'm sure that a couple of years from now, we'll be looking back at these matches that we right now think are some of the best and going, oh, the playstyle is so different from what it is in the future, as now the Incendiary comes in. And seems like those Phoenixes didn't get to do a whole lot in the back line.
Key technology, though, is the missile interceptor here for the War Factory has prevented the anti-air missile barrages from reaching the Phoenix. You can see all those missiles got shot down. The missile interceptor intercepts missiles of all kinds. That could be a Typhoon's anti-ground missiles. That could be a Fortress's anti-air missiles. That could be a Sentry missile that you would use, those 50 cost units. And it can also obviously be the the main cannons of an Overlord or a Stormcaller.
Well, we saw it in the show match, and we see it here again. The War Factory prevails, as it does here once more. And it's a heavy hit that comes through with it. 600 damage, taking Surrey down to just over 2k.
A lot of that is the fact that Cast kept those Phoenix alive.
Yeah.
That was really important for him. The Surrey needs an answer to the War Factory. None of these are really a good answer. Stormcaller would be a terrible pickup for Surrey with anti-missile War Factory already unlocked. So probably would be Overlord. So he's looking at one of these two, right? Fire Badger or Rhino, because they aren't countered. So why buy into a unit that's already countered? He's got the Fire Badgers for some chaff clear. And we'll see what Cast is picking.
And again, remember, worst case, you can pick them and sell them if you don't fancy using those units yourself. A level 6 Rhino, though, doesn't seem too bad. I haven't seen too much defense on the side of Cast, and he likes to kind of get out of the gates somewhat early on. So maybe there's a chance for a Rhino to kind of infiltrate the enemy backline.
Would have been right here, I think, would have been where that Rhino would have gone.
Yeah.
To run through on that tower. If that was what Surrey had taken. We'll see if Cast winds up defending that square. This is an interesting play. A lot of players at the mid-level have a real hard time dealing with a Air Badger flank. It didn't feel like there was a canon meta answer to it yet. So you'll see people make mistakes dealing with it. I wouldn't expect Cast to have problems with it. Players at this level, I think, are now having good answers to it. And among other things, we'd be able to get this deployment module Phoenix back over here if we needed. Or we can just get lucky and guess that that's happening.
Triple War Factory for Cast. Is that an all-in thing? Because they do, of course, cost you money coming into the next round. Is that him expecting to win the whole thing this round?
Well, if they survive, that's 1,800 hit points of damage, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to get 1,800 plus 4 surviving Phoenix.
And so far, they have a whole heck of a lot of health still remaining.